scientists of Earth had done something no one thought possible. They had captured a being from another world, a giantess unlike anything humans had ever seen, towering over the tallest buildings, with glowing eyes that seemed to look straight into a person's soul. She was chained in a massive containment chamber, the walls humming with strange energy. Many laughed at the warnings, saying no human could survive near her. They called her the imprisoned, a monster that could crush a man with a single movement. Everyone avoided her, whispering stories of how she had killed anyone who dared come close. But Arik, a young and curious scientist, felt something different, something pulling him toward her. Unlike the others, he was not afraid. He had always been fascinated by the unknown, and this giantess was the greatest unknown of all. Arik studied her day and night, noting the way her eyes moved, the way her massive hands flexed against the glowing chains. She made strange sounds, low vibrations that shook the floor. The other scientists said it was anger, but Arik thought it was more. He believed she was trying to communicate, waiting for someone who could understand. One day, the head scientist handed Arik a small container of alien nutrients. "He feeds her," he said, "but be careful. She will kill you if she wants." Arik felt a thrill. He walked toward the chamber slowly, holding the glowing food in his hands. The alarm screamed, warning everyone of the approaching danger. The giantess shifted, her glowing eyes following him. Everyone stepped back, murmuring that he was foolish, but Arik kept moving, his heart steady. He stopped a few meters away, raising the container slightly. "It's okay," he whispered, trying to sound calm. The giantess tilted her massive head, staring at him with a mix of curiosity and hunger. Her chains rattled as she moved slightly closer. Arik held his breath. He offered the food, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, she took it, her enormous hand closing gently around the container. She ate, carefully, almost like she was testing him. The room fell silent. The other scientists could not believe their eyes. He had done what no one else dared, and she had not attacked him. In that moment, a strange bond began to form. The giantess's eyes softened, and Arik felt a connection he could not explain. Every day after that, he returned, bringing her food. Speaking to her softly, the scientists warned him again and again, saying she could snap his bones in an instant. But Arik noticed she began to recognize him. She would move her massive body toward him, watching him closely. She seemed to trust him in a way she trusted no one else, and the more he fed her, the more curious she became. Sometimes she would make strange sounds, vibrations that echoed through the room. Arik listened carefully, trying to understand. He believed she was trying to communicate, telling him her story without words. No one else could approach her. Only Arik had the courage and the patience. Every move he made was careful, yet confident. He knew one wrong step could end his life, but he was ready to take the risk, because he felt that the giantess was not a monster. She was misunderstood, alone and powerful, a being who could destroy, but also a being who could connect with someone brave enough to try. And Arik was ready to be that person. The experiments would continue, the dangers would grow, but the first step had been taken, and in that moment, Earth realized that its most dangerous experiment might also be its greatest discovery. Days passed. Since Arik had first fed the giantess, and every visit was a test of courage, each time he approached her chamber, alarms screamed, lights flashed, and the air vibrated with her power. Yet, he never hesitated, walking closer and closer, holding the glowing food carefully in his hands. She began to watch him differently, tilting her massive head, following his movements with intelligent eyes. The other scientists remained terrified, whispering that she would kill him one day. But Arik noticed something else, a pattern in her behavior, a rhythm to her growls and movements. He began to mimic the sounds she made, soft vibrations that echoed in the chamber. At first, she reacted violently, shaking her chains, the walls rattling with each motion. But slowly, over days, she paused, seeming to listen, her enormous eyes fixed on him with curiosity instead of anger. Arik realized she was not just a monster. She was intelligent, far smarter than anyone had imagined. He spent hours observing her, studying how she moved, how she reacted, how she spoke without words. He learned that she could understand simple tones, certain gestures, and even emotions. One evening, the head scientist warned him again. "Stop this. She is too dangerous. One mistake, and you are dead." Arik shook his head, I need to understand her. She is not just a weapon. She is alive. He stepped forward with the glowing food, speaking softly. It's okay. I am not your enemy. The giantess hesitated, then slowly accepted the food, her massive hands moving carefully, almost gently, as if she had chosen to trust him. The room fell silent, everyone holding their breath. For the first time, the giantess had responded without anger, and Auric knew he had reached a breakthrough. Over the next few days, Auric tested the limits of their bond, moving closer to the chains, offering his hand, speaking in calm, measured tones. She began to respond, lowering her massive body. Letting him approach, she did not roar or strike. She seemed to recognize him, a connection forming between human and alien. The other scientists watched in fear and awe. Some wanted to end the experiment, but Auric knew he could not stop now. One night, alarms blared louder than ever, and the giantess shook violently, breaking part of the chamber with a single swipe. The walls cracked, sparks flew, and the lights flickered. The scientists panicked, running for cover, but Auric stayed, stepping forward, speaking to her, calmly, softly. He said her name, guiding her focus. She stopped, paused, looking at him, and the ground trembled with her breathing in that terrifying silence. Everyone understood that Auric was the only one she would listen to. Only he could approach her without fear. Only he could calm her when her power grew uncontrollable. But Auric also knew that danger was growing. Her hunger was stronger now, and her curiosity could turn into destruction in a heartbeat. He needed to understand her fully, to communicate with her before the world made a deadly mistake. He felt the weight of responsibility, knowing that one wrong move could cost him his life. Yet, he also felt a strange excitement, a thrill that this was the first time a human had truly reached an alien being. The giantess was no longer just a prisoner. She was a force of nature, alive and intelligent, and Auric was the only human brave enough to test the limits of her trust. Auric had spent weeks with the giantess now, and their connection had grown deeper than anyone could understand. She followed his movements, her massive eyes tracking him wherever he went. The other scientists whispered in fear, warning him that this was dangerous, that she could turn on him in an instant. But Auric saw something different in her, something no one else did. She was not just a weapon, not just a monster. She was aware, intelligent, and capable of trust. Something no human had ever achieved. With a being like her, every day he brought her food, and every day he spoke softly to her, teaching her small gestures, learning her sounds, trying to understand the rhythm of her thoughts. Slowly, she responded, moving her huge body carefully. Listening to his voice, the scientists were amazed and terrified. Some said it was impossible for a human to bond with such a creature, but Auric had proven them wrong. He had built trust, and trust in the giantess was as powerful as any weapon. Yet not everyone was happy with this bond. The government and rival scientists feared what they could not control. They saw the giantess as too dangerous, too powerful, and they wanted her destroyed. Auric argued, "She is not a monster. She can help us. We just need to understand her." But his words fell on deaf ears, and the whispers of betrayal began to spread through the base. One night, Auric sneaked into the chamber, carrying extra food, hoping to strengthen their bond. The giantess sensed his presence immediately, her enormous head turning, her eyes glowing brighter. She reached out a massive hand, gently brushing against him. Auric felt a rush of relief and awe in that simple touch. He understood something incredible. She would protect him as he had protected her. He was no longer just a scientist to her. He was a friend, a companion, the only human she trusted. But danger was closer than ever. The rival scientists were plotting, whispering plans to remove Auric and end the experiment permanently. They did not understand that the giantess could sense fear, anger, and deceit, and if they tried to harm him, she would not hesitate to strike. One evening, the rival scientists crept into the chamber, hoping to steal research data. The giantess heard him immediately, her roar shaking the walls. Alarms screamed, lights flickered, and chaos filled the base. But Auric stayed calm, speaking to her softly, guiding her focus. She paused, looked at him, and then, with incredible speed and strength, she moved, grabbing the intruder and throwing him across the room. The humans froze, knowing this was not an attack on Auric, but a warning to anyone who threatened him. Auric realized in that moment that their bond had grown into something extraordinary. She had chosen him, and in return, he had earned her trust and loyalty. It was a dangerous relationship, yes, but it was also a powerful one, a human and a giantess, standing together against fear, misunderstanding, and the limits of their world. The base had never seen anything like it before, and Arik understood that from this moment. Nothing would ever be the same. Not for him, not for the giantess, and not for the humans who had underestimated them both. The tension in the base had reached its peak. The rival scientists had grown impatient, convinced that Arik and the giantess were a threat to their plans. One night a group of them decided to strike while Arik was feeding her. They believed the giantess would not defend him, but they were wrong. Arik approached her chamber carefully, carrying food as always. He sensed the danger, but he stayed calm, trusting the bond they had built. The giantess's massive eyes glowed. As she noticed the intruders moving in shadows, she shifted slightly, chains rattling, and Arik whispered to her, "Stay calm, trust me." The rival scientist lunged at Arik, hoping to capture him. The giantess reacted instantly, faster than anyone could believe. Her massive hands shot out, sweeping the intruder off his feet, throwing him across the room with a force that cracked the floor. The alarm screamed louder than ever. Lights flickered, and the base trembled with her power. The other scientists panicked, trying to flee, but the corridors were no match for her. She moved like a force of nature, yet she never harmed Arik. Standing close to him as if protecting him, Arik's heart pounded, but he stayed calm, guiding her gently, whispering instructions. "This way, carefully." They ran through the underground tunnels, the giantess clearing obstacles effortlessly. Walls crumbled under her strength. Sparks flew from broken machinery. The guards fired at them, but her thick alien skin and sheer size made every attack useless. Arik ducked under her massive arm, feeling both fear and awe. The giantess seemed to understand his movements perfectly, moving with him as if they were partners in a dangerous dance. Every corner brought new challenges, traps set by the base, and teams of armed men. But nothing could stop them. Her loyalty to him was unshakable, and Arik's calm guidance kept her focused. As they approached the final exit, the rival scientists tried one last desperate attempt. They aimed a container again. Thinking sheer numbers could win, the giantess paused, towering over them, and then roared. A sound so powerful, it shook the very foundation of the base. Alarms blared, windows cracked, and everyone froze in terror. Arik stepped forward, holding his hands out, whispering, "We're leaving. No one else hurts us." She lowered her massive head, looked at him, and then moved, clearing the path with unstoppable force. Every step she took left cracks and smoke behind. The escape was not easy, but they finally reached the edge of the settlement, outside, under the night sky. Arik looked up at the giantess. She lowered herself to his level, her massive eyes reflecting the stars. He realized in that moment that she would not harm him, not now, not ever. She was not just a monster. She was his ally, his protector, and his friend. The humans who had betrayed him and plotted against her lay defeated or fleeing. The base had been shaken to its core, and the world would never forget what had happened. Arik knew their journey was only beginning, but for now, they were free, standing together, human and alien, against fear, injustice, and misunderstanding. The bond between them had grown stronger through danger and betrayal, proving that courage and trust could overcome even the deadliest threats. Arik and the giantess finally reached the edge of the settlement. The night sky stretched above them, full of stars, quiet and vast. After the chaos, the world seemed to pause, as if it too was watching them. The giantess lowered her massive body to the ground, letting Arik stand close to her. Her glowing eyes looked at him with something he could not describe. Not anger, not hunger, but understanding, a silent promise. Arik whispered to her, "We're free now. No one can stop us." She let out a soft rumble, almost like a laugh, a sound of relief and triumph. The humans who had betrayed him were gone, fleeing or captured. The base lay in ruins, a reminder of what happens when fear controls people. Arik looked at the giantess and realized the truth. She would not harm him, only protect him, and he, in return, would protect her. Together, they had formed a bond stronger than fear, stronger than power, stronger than any weapon. It was a partnership that no one could break. Word of their escape spread quickly, but no one understood what had really happened. Legends began to form, stories of a man who had tamed a giantess, who had earned her trust, and who had survived. When everyone else had failed, Arik and the giantess became symbols, proof that courage, Patience and understanding could change the impossible into reality. Governments and scientists debated what to do next, but Eric knew he would not let anyone use her as a weapon. She was not a tool. She was alive, aware, and free, together. They explored the wilderness outside the settlement, learning from each other. Eric studied her habits, her strength, her intelligence. She, in turn, seemed to understand him more every day, recognizing his intentions, his emotions, and his care. People began to speak of them not with fear, but with awe. Stories of the human and the alien who had defied expectation, who had formed a bond that no one could imagine. The Giantess's presence changed the world's view of aliens, proving that some beings, no matter how dangerous, could be allies if met with courage and respect. Eric knew their journey was only beginning. There would be threats in the future, challenges that would test both human and alien, but he was ready. And so was she. They had survived betrayal, danger, and fear together, forming a partnership that could face anything. Standing under the stars, Eric placed his hand on her massive arm, whispering, "We'll face everything together." The Giantess rumbled, a sound of agreement and trust. They were not just a human and a monster anymore. They were a team, defenders of Earth, symbols of hope, courage, and the power of understanding. And so, the story of Eric and the Giantess became legend, a tale of fear turned into trust, danger turned into friendship, monsters turned into allies. Humanity had learned a lesson, that even the most terrifying creatures could become the greatest friends, if someone had the courage to reach out, to understand, and to trust. And the Giantess, once imprisoned and feared, now roamed the world freely, loyal to the one human who had dared to be brave enough to feed her.